Well, thanks everyone for coming out here to Miami. The last product session we had yesterday, we had a couple of fire drills going off, so hopefully not, but they still have some chairs here that we can hang out if there's a fire drill. So thanks everyone for your time. 2015 was a transformative year for us at MicroStrategy. Around this time last year, when we were in Vegas, we talked about and we released to you the MicroStrategy 9S. And that was for us the start in our transition to Agile. That's moving away from those 2-3 year monster releases that we'd been building at MicroStrategy and materializing those incremental releases, taking advantage of some of the things that Dirk and Gloria spoke about. We knew what was really important was we heard a lot of feedback from our customers that we really needed to bring the 10 release to the market. We put a lot of energy to materialize that. In Q1, we ran through a series of betas. We did early adopter, as we talked about from the event. And we were really proud that in May, we went to general availability with our MicroStrategy 10 Secure Enterprise product. We followed on from that with launching with the release into the Secure Cloud. And we had a little bit of a timing between Secure Cloud and Secure Enterprise for us. But we continued down the process, and we've been on a quarterly cadence for our core releases. We also have been issuing a hotfix one, as well as obviously in our cloud environment, we can release even more frequently, and we do a monthly release cycle into the cloud environment. So we wanted to get the exercise going of being able to frequently release our software. We understand that many customers can't upgrade or update as frequently as we release software. We know that over time you've had experiences of upgrading from 9.3 to 9.4 or 9.2 to 9.3, and there have been some breaking changes. Our goal is to make sure we can update and release more frequently, but with less breaking changes and make it much easier for you to do it. I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the things we're going to do to make that easier. So we've had lots and lots of downloads of MicroStrategy, some great downloads of desktop, of server. I'm not listing all the countries around the world, but pretty extensive download and utilization across the versions of MicroStrategy 10. We knew it was really important for us to bring this product to market. We knew that it was important. We had active feedback. You know, I love the active process we had with many of our early adopters, many of our 10.0 customers and 10.1 customers in really working with us on really hardening the release and making 10.2 the best release that we've ever had. So I'm super excited about that. I get the joy every morning at 9 a.m. having a daily triage, getting feedback from field, from our sales teams, from our support teams, of some of the issues that we're seeing in the customers and what can we actually do to better address them. So we've taken a lot of that data that we gained after release and really materialized it, making the best possible release in 10.2 and going forward. So when I came on stage last time around, we talked about we were making this Agile transition. And we were moving from these very large multi-year releases to these quarterly release cycle, right? We're going from these hundreds and thousands of features to much more digestible subset of functionality for our users. We were moving from some major behavioral changes, and many of you have been patient with us as we've kind of gone through some of those. And we had a fair amount of internal validation that we ran in our test lab. In the transition for us this year, we've really been focusing on quarterly releases. Dirk talked about how do you get something in the hands of users that they can feel it, play with it, work with it, and how can you iterate over time. You can achieve a lot more in 8 releases over a 2-year period than one monster release in a 2-year period. And the team is actively working to take everything we learn from our customers and embed that into what we do every day. Our goal is also to ensure we limit the behavioral changes and make the upgrade experience as easy as possible for you, and I'm going to talk about some of the things we're going to do there, and to really show that we are actually really focused on the customer validation. In the 10.2 release, we had many customer environments in our data centers that we use for upgrade testing, validating, performance benchmarking, and that really helped us cement the work that we'd done in the 10.2 release. And we're going to be further expanding that customer validation program. So if any of the customers in the room today would like to participate in the validation program and include have their copy or sub part of their environment made available to us, we'd be more than happy to include it in our software release process. So let's talk a little bit about the vision that we have at MicroStrategy, what we're trying to do. Michael showed you the architecture diagram yesterday, and we've got leadership in each of these areas in tools and servers, in enterprise assets, in clients, and overall the platform. We wanted to make sure, and we understand, that when you buy from MicroStrategy, you're not buying, this team and that team and this team, this SKU, that product, that subcomponent. You're buying a solution that needs to work end to end, right? And it needs to be robust, easy to deploy, easy to install, easy to take advantage of. And so we've built a really rich platform with 10.0, and we want to leverage and extend on that. There's a lot of richness into the MicroStrategy platform. Many of you today in the room are taking advantage of that. There's functionality in there today that you're not even taking advantage of, right? And hopefully you had a great opportunity here from Michael and Hugh talking about some of the key functionality that's available in 10. You've made massive investments in terms of the metadata, the capturing of your business logic, the reports, the templates, all of the things you've put in. You've put the heart and soul of your company into many of these systems, right? And we want to honor that investment. That investment in metadata, that investment in content, that investment in users and orchestration is very important, and we want to take advantage of that. So when I talk about the strategy and what we're doing, we're taking and leveraging what we've built in 10, and we want to enhance it so that we actually expand out the functionality and address a couple of key dimensions. The first dimension for me is time to value, right? Gloria gave an example of, you got to meet customer requirements, you got to come to market quickly, you want to show something, improve it, and make it real. And when you make it real, you want it to be scalable and reliable and available to all your users, right? For me, time to value is a critical thing I think about every day, right? How do we remove friction from the creation process, right? The deployment process, the administration process, right? We have way too many tools today in what we've actually built out, and we want to simplify the ability to do that. I often tell my team that my goal is to have my administrative assistant to be able to build applications that we deploy to everyone in technology, right? We want it to be as simple and easy as possible to actually build and deploy rich enterprise applications to your users and empower them. And we're going to talk a little bit about Workstation in a couple of minutes of what we're looking at there. From our users, we have different degrees of skill sets in our users, okay? A user that I talk about quite frequently to my team is my 4-year-old daughter. She is an expert on the iPad. She is an expert when it comes to Netflix, navigating. She didn't take a certification course. She wasn't trained other than watching her brother use the iPad, right? But she intuitively was able to pick up, navigate her applications, go into Netflix, choose her favorite show, and then protest every now and again. So we need to take some of those paradigms that we're used to from our day-to-day life and apply them to the experiences that we want to have in our products. We know that there's different skill sets of people, whether you're a driver on the truck or you're someone in a restaurant, right? Whether you're a pharmaceutical sales rep, right? Whatever your class or your education or skill set, we want to take advantage of the paradigms. They're going to be instinctive for the users to do, right? And leverage the learning that they have had from other interactions. Thirdly, expand the scalability of the solution. We know for our customers we want to support greater horizontal scalability. We want to fence particular types of users, right? We want to fence particular workloads that we're actually doing, right? We want to support the environment and customers that are making the moves into the cloud. When I've been speaking with some of our partners and speak with Amazon, they're seeing dramatic moves. And many of you in the room are making aggressive moves to move data centers from on-premise or colo facilities into the cloud, right? We want to make sure we fully support the cloud, but we also understand that you have got core enterprise assets you want to leverage. And we expect to see greater utilization of hybrid cloud, where you're taking advantage of maybe an internal project and you want to create a customer extranet. You want to create a sandbox environment, right? You don't want to go through the lengthy internal processes to do it. You want to have that provisioned and available to you in 5 minutes, like Michael demonstrated, and have that integrated and managed and monitored in a trustable way. And the fourth area that also we talked about yesterday was leveraging enterprise data, right? And enterprise assets. There's a lot of assets out there in your organization. Our core goal is to make it very easy for you to connect to them and leverage them and use them throughout your applications, right? You should only have to have one person ever connect to that asset, and that be discoverable and leverageable by everyone in the organization. So there's a lot of key techniques and mechanisms that we are going to take advantage of in the future. So this is a fictitious company. I just want to go through an example with you to kind of talk and show some of those themes coming forward. In this particular company, Acme, they've got a needs to distribute briefing books to 3,000 managers across the world. They deal with multiple environments, multiple servers. They've got a lot of complexity. They've got major transactions in big data. They've moved from legacy data warehouses into having a broad set of data lakes and rich data in Hadoop and Google BigQuery and other sources. And they have a strong pressure, like Gloria talked about, to improve the time to value. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about this example. So we're going to talk a little bit about now Workstation and Dossier. So what you're seeing on the screen here is the Workstation product. The Workstation product takes some of the common metaphors that we're used to in our day-to-day life on our machines, whether you're on a Windows or a Mac machine. What are the kind of key common metaphors you're used to, right? How can I actually browse or search, right? If I look at applications today, right, the old metaphor of having things, you know, multiple windows, multiple tabs that I have to do things is kind of gone. We want to take advantage of modern constructs like drag and drop. We want to take advantage of search embedded so that every object is exposable and leverageable. We want to have things well organized so you have access to them. And we want to put it all in one place, right? Today, when I count up the tools, we've got like 72 tool components, and we really want to create a great interface to allow you to build these applications. If I take a look at what I'm seeing right now, I'm taking a look at the environments I have in this system. I've got 3 environments. I've got an Aqueduct production, test, and a development environment. I can see generally the health of the environment very quickly. I can see the user load on the system. I can see any alerts and key service statistics. So right up front for me, I can very quickly see that. Obviously, environments have a series of applications on it, right? In this example, we've got a dev test production case, but many of our large customers have split applications across multiple environments. They've got 4 or 5 environments in the cloud. They've got environments on-prem. They've got environments in Singapore and Helsinki and Montreal. And we want to be able to give them access to all of those environments they have across different systems, as well as for them to see the applications that are running on those environments. In this example, you can see in our production environment, we've got 3 key applications. Michael talked about the Merit application, though this is a fictitious company, and that's one of the ones we're going to talk about. In terms of assets, there's a richness of data assets that lives out there in our environment. Literally, we know you have thousands, if not tens of thousands of databases, right? You're talking gigs, terabytes, petabytes of data, right? And we know that you want to see what's happening in that environment. Is that environment up? Is it safe? How many apps are actually using that, right? And give you visibility for what's happening in your set of data sources and data assets, right? For us, big data is a key part of our investment, right? We've put a lot of energy in working with some of our customers, right? The advanced technology team and our teams are going to be spending a lot of time with some of our strategic customers over this next year to really work at keeping pushing the boundaries of what we're doing with big data. And we really appreciate some of the leading customers like Facebook we've had an opportunity to work with to really kind of grow out our investment there. Let's now talk about the experience. So what I talked about from a system is you all have built amazing metadata and data and reports and content, okay? So then you're saying, oh no, we're going to have to redo this thing, okay? No, we're building on top of the investment. Every piece of metadata that you've built, every report, every object will be exposed and indexed in the system. The behaviors of what I do is also indexed, right? You will see an eventing strategy put in place with subsequent versions where we'll be recording every single transaction someone does, right? And in Enterprise Manager, the IT guys in the audience used it to see what was happening in the system, right? But how do we take that information and bring it to the hands of the analysts so they actually know what's actually going on, right? How do they understand what's happening in the system? What are the top reports? So why don't we go through an example, right? Let's take a look at Ted Lee. Ted Lee is one of our financial analysts, and Ted always is on track and has got the right ideas about stuff. Let's look at Ted, and let's take a look at some of the content that Ted has specifically. So there's a bunch of content that Ted looks. You can see that search is integrated. I get responses back to me. And I see a series of content for Ted. Well, what was the top things that Ted looked at? So let's go and take a look at Ted. Let's look at specifically the reports that Ted had. So obviously we support reports, we support grids, we support dashboards. And let's take a look here, and let's rank set them. So we can see there's 3 of these top reports that Ted is accessing all of the time, right? And what we would like to do is not just have Ted be that guru, we want to share that information with a broader set of users. And so I selected those 3 reports, I right-clicked, and I created a dossier. Dossier for us is a briefing book that brings together content and allows us to distribute to users, whether on mobile devices or web, okay? In this particular example, it was as quick as doing that. You can see in this example, we've got a financial report here, okay? So for those in the audience that are interested in us doing a better job on financial reporting, that's one of the things we're actively working on. In this particular example, I've got 3. I've created a chapter, right, which is the corporate performance overview, and I've got a number of verses in terms of the key performance, profitability, and so forth. So like everything else in the system, I want to be able to drag and drop my assets from other parts of the system to actually create that chapter and verse. So again, I want to come back to search and come across here. I've moved across to my window. I'm going to search in this particular example for grids, and I'm going to look specifically for performance orientated. So what we're actually looking at is we're looking at the data and the metadata that's in the system and exposing that through a search interface. In this particular example, you see relatively quickly I return that result back, and I'm selecting some additional content that I can see. Now I could have previewed any of those, I could have looked at it, but they seem to make sense, and I'm going to drag them again into the dossier. So what expectations would you have for using it? Selecting and dragging? Yes, they're the kind of metaphors that people are used to when they used to move documents around on the Windows or the Mac machines. You can see I created a chapter, and then I've created a subject by just moving things around. And I can flick through, take a look at different views of the reports. I've got different reports and grids available to me. You can see I can dynamically scale the content, and you can see that we moved across there. Okay. So one of the things many of you have been asking for is, to be able to have better control over filters, right, and parameters. So when we spend a lot of time with our customers, what are they trying to actually do and achieve? In this particular example, you can actually see that I was able to select a particular value and actually take it out of the filter. So I'm designing the dossier, I took employee out, so by default everyone sees it. But I equally have the opportunity in what I do to actually also tie things together. For this particular report, in this dossier, these are the things I want pinned to it. So I'm going to select just Germany for this one, so I can select specific values. I can lock it so that every single page in the document is actually locked to a set of settings, or it varies depending on the type. So a lot more of that granular control over what you can do. So I've now created my I've created my dossier. And I want to now preview it. One of the things that many of you in the room have asked for is like, yeah, but when I build it and then I got to deploy it on different environments, like how do I go and do that? Like I want to see it on web and I want to see it on mobile, all in one place. So pretty cool, hey? So you can test it out on whether it's iOS or Android, whether you're testing it out on web. Right within your interface, you can see how that's going to appear and the different form factors and use those native kind of controls. We're going to save this out to the system, this dossier that we've actually created. Great. So let's just take one more step. So if I was actually wanting to deploy this, what is the experience I'd expect to want to deploy it to? Well, let me just drag it, okay? So that dossier is now being dragged into that Merit project. At the bottom of it, you can see the progress bar continuing. Go through. And it's going to identify some key information to me. It actually tells me if I add that dossier to that project, I'm going to have an impacted response time. We know what is happening in that system. We know the profiling of the users that will have access to that dossier, the complexity of that dossier, and we want to profile for the users what's exactly happening. We can actually see now that there's a notification on that Merit project. So if we now take a look at it, I said the performance was not going to be optimal for that project. So why don't we take a little bit of more a view of that. We can see that it's running, but there's a number of key alerts on that piece of content, and we expose it up to the interface. So we can drill down into some more detail and take a look at our health status. So this gives me an overview of the health status of the system. I can see my remaining user capacity, my server reliability. I can see overall that things are running, but I can see my response time is below my SLA. And very clearly I can go and see that, and I can make some corrective actions. So why don't we now create a new environment, and we're going to deploy an environment in a secure cloud. So it's going to ask me to provision an environment. I can choose individual, team, or enterprise, or a number of different choices. I select the environment that I'm interested in provisioning if I have permission to it. I provide a little bit of information. It's the Aqueduct cloud environment, a bit of contact information to provide through to the account, and we go and create that environment. Okay, so I've created the environment. As you can see, we can spin up an environment very quickly. And then we actually want to deploy to it. So again, how do you think I'd want to deploy an application to environment? Do I want to go and run a bunch of scripts, or do I want to take advantage of the visual interface? Behind the path, we're actually doing that migration. We've got users migrated, we've got security filters, we've got reports, we've got content, all coming through seamlessly in the experience. I can watch this progress, but I'm just going to go and let it. I'm just going to drop it down here at the moment and go and take a look and see what's happening. I think I've gone off for a coffee. Maybe the smoke alarms went off, came back into the room. Let's go and see what's happening here. Okay, we got a notification. So we're leveraging the native notification mechanisms in the platforms that people use to alert you and notify you exactly what's happening. I can see information on this particular platform. I can see what's happening here. We can look at some details. One of the things that we've been really focusing on is how can we get greater horizontal scalability in everything we do. One of the areas of that is fencing. So in this particular example, we want to provide fast performance for the executives, right? Because they're really needy and they complain a lot. I don't know if anyone knows that. So we want to fence a set of servers or services to a group of executives. We could either fence it for that, or we could fence it for those doing batch jobs or cube building or different assets that we want to do. So we're going to fence this to the executive group and move on. So I feel pretty good. We've got this environment. For me, I'm pretty happy. I'm going to get high performance. I don't have to worry about other production reporting or cube loading or other things taking away from me. So let's now take a look at this dossier is now published. It's available. We've deployed it. We've deployed a faster version into Amazon, and we want to log in. So Ashley is going to log in to this dossier we've provided. And she's brought up with an interface. You can take a look at Dossier. Dossier is going to give you a set of briefing books that she has available. Think of these kind of almost like your iBooks. Here's my selection of books that I have. We, again, leverage that same search metaphor in everything we do. Everything we have is indexed, everything we have available to us, and I can go and search for some of the particular dossiers or briefing books that I'm interested in accessing. In this particular example, I choose one of them, and again, we see that front page of the report with the financial report. I take advantage of the gestures I'm used to. I can right arrow or left arrow. I can, I can create some swiping with the mouse. I can see that my chapters and verses that as we materialize are there and available to me, right? They collapse and hide in the way I'd expect to. If anyone familiar with working with iBooks or any of the Apple products, you're familiar with some of these metaphors. The filter interface is also equally available, and we have a richness of the way we expose filters. In this particular example, I'm going to select some quarters and some regions, and I can then select the relative value. It's going to edit the query and execute. So I can leave that panel up and running to see context, and you can see that that data can apply locally or globally. Those filters that I provide can apply globally or locally, and that's in the dossier designer. That's part of Workstation. That's where you set that up. So you can see in these examples, I'm actually going to take a look at examples, and we can actually see here that there seemed to be a bit of an issue with margin, okay? And we actually want to make a bit of a commentary there. Now, we want to notify a particular user of what's happening. We want to identify a section of the data that we really want to focus on. So we want to give the tools and techniques available in the interface to do some of those things. So we're going to select some of the information. I'm highlighting a couple of cells. I'm going to grab some of the information that I want to share, and we're going to mark it. So that's going to give in context, when I send that note, and in the system, context of exactly what of the data you were interested in, you were actually commenting on. And that's available in a thread on that conversation. And we'll have integrations with Skype and other messaging platforms. I can send an email. I could take that report and export it to PDF. I can share it. I can share a link, all of those things. Inbuilt in the product, we've actually built in native, a native concept of a user. A user has an identity, and we learned that from Usher. And we will leverage the personal identity of users to be able to do a better job at communicating to users. And you'll see some examples of that in a couple of minutes. Okay, so we've identified some trends, we've seen stuff, we've sent an email out to Tim about the corporate performance. You know, we want to take a look at it. That's going to bring me into the dossier. And I open it up on my iOS device, and I'm able to use the usual experiences I'd want to do. I can look at my chapter and verse, right? It left it exactly where I'd done it. I can change the chapter. I can use the gestures that I'd expect to use. I have the same rich filter panel. But we can filter not only in the standard way. Any piece of content, any report itself can act as a filter on data. I could be filtering off support cases in a map and actually filtering data that's actually financial performance, okay? So the ability to drive filters in the right visual metaphor is very important. In this example, I can keep going through, and I'm looking for some trends. So for us internally, we drive our business through merit. Michael talked a lot about some of the things we're doing there. And for us, performance is key. So let's go through an example. You know, there's some people that are doing a great job on their performance, and some people doing not so good. So let's take a look. So this was our top performer. We sorted on them and say, congratulations, you did a great job, right? Let's notify them. So inbuilt into that data, we understood that that person actually was an object in our metadata in our system, and that allowed us to communicate with them with the different communication mechanisms we had available, and we store that and have that exposed. So we've now done our communication, but that's not enough. I want to clear the filter. So we talked about, you know, a really strong person, but in every organization, we always need to think about professional development. We really need to think about what we need to do to work with our teams. And part of that is, what does our performance look like? So here's a visual example. Here's my consultants, the skill of the consultant, right, as well as their utilization rate. So let's take a look at those that had very low utilization rate and really low skills, and let's create a custom group on the fly for those. So we just visually created a custom group by doing a gesture that I expect to do. I circled the information, I created a custom group, I gave it a custom name, and that's interesting to highlight this, but equally it's important to allow me to then use that to filter the other information. So let's now go and take a look at the filters, and I can see now I've got a new filter, I've got that set of users, I can materialize who they are, I can select it, and I can now pivot the data based on that set of information. So we're taking the metaphor of being able to visually connect with data, to create groups and then apply it to other data. And you see, I didn't have to change dashboards, I didn't have to do anything. It's a natural fluid involvement. And these directors need to actually get these people to training, get them certified, and then hopefully their utilization rate is there. More experience, greater utilization. I know our customers are happy when our consultants are well educated, so this is what we want to do. So, one of the things that we have in the system, because as we log additional information on utilization, we also can actually make recommendation, right? So in this particular example, I came to the end of the dossier, I did that end gesture, and we actually were recommending some other related dossier or some other material based on other users. So you start to see the role of us using the data on utilization of analytics, not only from an IT side to monitor the system, but to actually make the journey and the experience better for every single user that uses the system. Okay, let's talk a little bit about 3 months later, we get an alert. So we know for many of our customers, you've gone through a lot of pain sometimes to go from one version of software to another. It's a lengthy process. We want to make sure that we can allow for parallel deployment of software, and for the cloud customers, we want to take advantage of doing that, right? When a new release comes out, parallel up the release and give you visibility for what the performance characteristics and the features will look like for that new release. Give you the ability to even potentially take a subset of users and actually deploy them into testing the new software. So in this particular example, I'm going to go and take the system I had. We're going to deploy a subset of users to test and validate it. We are going to be tracking, as I talked about, all of the actions in the system. We're making some adjustments to our eventing system in the platform, and that will give us the ability to record and track. And record and track will also give us the ability to replay, okay? So if I actually knew, if you had a system and you were tracking certain activities for 1 week, we in the new system could replay that set of activities in the test system, and it'd be a representative example of exactly what people in your system are actually doing, okay? And again, you saw at the end of that, we had integrated in the alerting functionality into the core alerting of the platform. So from an investment side, we're pretty excited about the kind of things we're doing, right? We want to dramatically make it much easier for you to be able to build rich applications and build them quickly. We want you to be able to leverage some of the core metaphors that you used to in your home life to actually build and shape those applications. We want you to have an environment that you get 360-degree visibility of exactly what's happening in the environment, where the bottlenecks or issues are. We want you to be able to take action, right? In the example Gloria had, it's like, yeah, we just need to make it work. And I go, okay, but you know, I can spin this up in secure cloud in 5 minutes and we can be up and running. Is that good? Yep, let's go ahead and make that happen, right? We really want to remove those barriers that exist today, create a much more effective time to value, and you will see significant investment in our tools area to dramatically change the ability to build applications. Intuitive and powerful user experience. Again, as I talked about, you saw some examples of the dossier consumption experience. On top of this experience, and many people think about experience as being solely related to our user interface, our APIs are equally a key part of our interface, right? We have many customers and OEMs that want to take advantage of the data from MicroStrategy, or they want to take advantage of this visualization or that visualization, right? They want to build some other things on top of it, or they want to integrate it into their application. And so we want to make sure that the experience we provide for people building and deploying their applications, whether you're building a full end-to-end analytics, mobility, or security application, is able to be deployed seamlessly and quickly. We want to make sure that we've got that hybrid environment and people can get up and running quickly, right? Scalable, horizontal scalability, and allow you to make that deployment on-prem in the cloud, and for us to work with you to support your journey. One of the things I'm excited about in 10, and I'm excited with some of our customers that are making the migration. They're making the move from, the classic relational enterprise data warehouses out into Hadoop or Google BigQuery or the Presto or whatever else. And we want to support you on that journey. We want to support creating a unified experience for your users so that as they make the migration, it is seamless to them. We want it to be seamless to your users, so you keep rolling out to additional users, you can keep providing them additional functionality, but at the back end we can do the reconnection of data. And that's why one of the key reasons for me why our metadata and our understanding and the business logic is so important, right? We want to honor that investment that you've made in metadata, that you've made in your system. And lastly, obviously, those enterprise assets that we previously talked about. So we started the year, we've had 4 quarterly releases. We had 9S, we had 10, we had 10.1, and we had 10.2. We're excited about 10.3. It's going to ship this quarter. And we are on a quarterly cadence. We are a quarterly cadence to keep providing value to our customers, to build upon the investment that you have made in version 10. Every quarter we have it. I don't expect everyone to upgrade each quarter. I know we need to prove ourselves that we simplify the upgrade experience and make that better for you, but we want you to see that. We want you to see that we've got that process, and we're going to be very transparent in our communication process to you. We run a quarterly cadence of training and educating our field teams. We run a quarterly cadence in terms of preparing people. I had a CTO newsletter that I sent out just before the 10.2 release, and we'll continue to do that ongoing. So we want to be very transparent, like we are internally, with our customers about where we're going and what we're trying to do, and help hold us accountable for delivering and continuing to deliver incremental value to you. So 10.3 is coming. We're super excited about it. The team's working hard at it. We're working through way more customer validation environments than we did in 10.2. And again, call out for anyone that's interested in participating in that environment. Speak to your premium support or your account executive, and we'd love to hear from you. So a couple of key highlights. This is what I'm super excited about. It was highlighted in Michael's section, but I think it deserves an extra bit of play. So we released visualizations.microstrategy.com. It's actually already live. You can take advantage of it. We've done some amazing work in the product to take better advantage of that. So from desktop with VI, the ability to create your own hotspots, and then to be able to take those and integrate them in. A couple of interesting examples here. There's a Sankey diagram that's pretty neat in terms of where your flow of information travels, or data, or products, or so forth. Organization chart is a pretty neat diagram. I know many people want to take advantage of, and we materialize that. We have a team of people working on additional visualizations. You can submit visualizations to us. We go through code reviews and other things, and we'll make them available in the community. So please work with us and share some of those great visualizations that you're building, and you can all collaborate and leverage them in community. And they'll be integrated into the desktop or the analytics experience. Second one is embedding images directly into dashboards. So for those of you that had to put an image on some web server somewhere and then have to materialize that, you'll be able to quickly just drag and drop an image that you want right into the dashboard, and then they'll be materialized in your application. So a bit of a small feature, but yeah, it's a good feature. Many of our customers take advantage of HTML content in their dashboards, and on web, it renders it in HTML, obviously. But you also want to print it, you want to export it and take advantage of it. So in 10.3, we've also got improved PDF export with formatted HTML tags. So I've had quite a number of escalations on that topic as part of my daily 9 a.m. meetings. So we were happy to help be responsive to our customers' requests there. This is one of my favorite ones. I want to tell you all a story. For 10.2, we went through a process of taking a closer look at our install. And I had many of my engineers and many product managers, and I said, okay, I want you guys all to do end-to-end installs. And I had the stopwatch out, and I got them to go through it, and we recorded it all. Some people failed, some people passed, and I said, okay, we have to do something different here. And so we've been putting effort and energy to go from the complex install and configuration process to a much more simplified install experience. And you'll see the first version of that in 10.3, where we're going to simplify it from a crazy number of screens to a screen. We're also taking account for prerequisites and other things. So yeah, I think that's a good one. One of the things we talked a little bit about was what we've been doing with Usher. So one of the key projects we have is our Project Rockstar. You saw some of the experiences we talked about, how you walk around the office and it can unlock doors and open things. But we also understand the importance of creating a much more secure environment. So we're in 10.3, we're going to provide a new zero-click Mac login. Makes it much more frictionless. You can walk towards your machine and it opens, and walk away and it will lock, sorry. And you'll see that across Windows and other platforms. But we also want to continue this investment in the future releases, where you'll also be able to provide seamless access to applications. This allows IT to be able to set locking privileges on the machine much more actively and to have that captured. We also capture real great telemetry data, so you can see the amount of utilization that you've got in that environment. So the zero-click login, and we're taking advantage of some of the native functionality that was recently exposed to a tighter Bluetooth pairing, thanks to the work that Apple did in that case, and we're working obviously with Microsoft on the Microsoft case as well. So literally in 10.3, we have hundreds of customer-driven enhancements and some defects, and some really good requests and feedback. I think the thing I appreciate from getting an opportunity to engage with our teams and customers every day is to really understand the things that are blocking you being successful, and we diligently go through every defect that gets escalated every day, and we do a daily triage of everything comes through, we bring it in, and we materialize it in the product, and you're going to see more of that. I talked about the visualization, multi-threaded data import for faster import, the embedded documents, HTML tags. We can completing some of the work around Android and iOS parity. So I know for many of you that are Android shops in Europe or in Asia, that this is a key item for you, and we're proud of where we've been going here. Simplified Express Install we talked about, and really making sure that that end-to-end product offering is fully there and exposable. And the full platform that Michael showed to you is fully there and available on Windows, Linux, and AIX in the 10.3 release. And I talked about Zero Mac login. So, I kind of want to end on this diagram. So we're very invested in really building a robust platform to allow you to build a mix of rich applications, right? Enterprise analytics, mobility, security applications, right? If you have particular ideas or suggestions, please go to the knowledge exchange that we actually have, the ideas exchange on our community site. Product managers will look and review those. Work with your account team. Please provide us the feedback. I love customer-driven stories. I like stories that I can talk about, where I can say, at Facebook they have this problem and this is what they want to try and solve. Here's the business challenge they have, right? So if you've got stories or ideas of the business problems that the business challenges you have, the problems you'd like us to help work with you on, please provide those stories to us and let us help shape the future together. So if you want to learn more, participate in the focus groups. We have another focus group today. ask about joining the Early Adopter Program. We've got the quarterly customer council that we're running each quarter, and please engage in community. Thank you everyone for your time.